All right, hi Nijin. Let's take a look at your new set of essays today. This is about pollution. What are the reasons for pollution? How can it be solved? Let's see what you wrote. The issue of pollution has grown in importance over the last few decades, mostly in metropolitan cities due to traffic congestion and increased deforestation. This essay will discuss the major reasons behind this and also give a few possible solutions using examples from Delhi government and Harvard University to demonstrate points and prove arguments. All right, lovely. No problems at all. I thought it was good, clear, and appropriate. Let's move on to your body paragraphs now. Look, evidence is uncountable, so it has to be singular. There is ample evidence that the air quality in major cities like London, New York, and even Delhi is becoming worse day by day. The central reason behind this is twofold. Firstly, how about this? To build, not for building, to build such huge concrete jungles, a lot of vegetation, get rid of the S, including big trees and forests, has to be cut down, which eventually puts a lot of strain on the process of air purification by nature without the. Okay, so it's lovely, it's very nice, but there are little structural grammatical problems, like prepositions and things like this that required me to make quite a few changes in this one sentence, okay? Secondly, more and more citizens are attracted to large cities, making these ESE places, because it's cities, not city, making these places crowded, thereby paving the way for traffic congestion. For example, recent empirical research by Harvard University demonstrated that the top 5 most polluted cities are the ones in which there has been a tremendous rise in the sales of motor vehicles. Okay. Therefore, it is conclusively clear that surplus population and overexploitation of natural resources will lead to the problem of air pollution. Okay. This is lovely. I thought it was really well developed. I thought that you had very appropriate support for your main ideas. Your main ideas were relevant, and I thought it was very well structured. Like I said, the one problem that I had was with some of those little pesky grammatical things, those structural words primarily, prepositions and things like this, agreement between your verb and your nouns. Okay. One little thing, it's really such a minor detail, but I do want to mention it. In IELTS essays, there are certain words that I really don't like seeing. And these are words that are so basic, so elementary, that they really have no place in IELTS. And partially because there's so many other descriptive, more precise words that you can use. And precision is something that IELTS examiners are looking for. For example, you have here big trees. I really would have liked to see a different word instead of big. So certain words that I never like seeing in essays like this are big, nice, good, bad, small. There's so many far more descriptive, far more precise words that you could have said, you could say and use instead of these words. Let's move on though. Although there are some prevalent reasons for air pollution. All right, now check this out. I see a lot of students doing this. I don't understand. When you have although, that's all you need for contrast. You don't need a second word for contrast like but. This is inappropriate. It's either one or the other. So decide which one you want to use and go with it. I personally prefer although. It does feel a little more sophisticated than but, which is, kind of like a first tier linker. It's like one of the first linkers you ever learn in English. So I would have gone with although. So let's try it. Although there are some prevalent reasons for air pollution, some important steps taken at the right moment could mitigate the damage done by it. The main solution to this problem is to create awareness among citizens about the ill effects like climate change, singular, acid rain, singular, and floods. And this is okay to be plural. Let's see. The ill effects. Okay, I think you mean something else. The ill effects of climate change, acid rain, and floods. this is something I think you could have talked about maybe in one additional sentence. You could have given me an example. Because it just feels like there was a little more you could have said here. Governments can implement strict laws and encourage people to use. You encourage someone to do something. So encourage people to use public transport, singular, whenever possible. For instance, the government of Delhi put out the odd-even rule for public vehicles, S, in which vehicle numbers, S, ending with odd digits, S, could only be used, careful, you wanted passive voice here, could only be used on odd dates and even, this is awkward here, penalize those who did not follow these rules, which eventually resulted in an increase of air quality index for that city. Okay, consistent with this line of thinking is to promote tree plantation and use of green energy resources for fuel. Okay, maybe you could have said something more about that as well. Otherwise, it's like, why talk about it? In other words, it doesn't make sense to present an idea if you're not going to explore it a little bit and if you're not going to support it. Consequently, these solutions will help to solve the problems of pollution. To conclude from the arguments and examples given, the problem of air pollution in large cities has become a matter of concern which could be solved with the help of both government and its citizens working together. That's a lovely sentence, really, really nice. It is predicted that that use of renewable fuel like solar energy will increasingly grow in importance in order to prevent further damage to the environment. Okay, that's fine. I don't love that you had such a specific prediction. I would have liked something a little more general, just because you didn't spend your whole essay talking about solar power or anything like that. So for me, a far more appropriate ending would have been, it is predicted that the aforementioned solutions for urban pollution will be implemented in order to provide a improved environment in the future, something like that. Okay, so I think that would have maybe been a little more appropriate. So basically, I thought this essay was lovely. I thought there were really a lot of nice elements to it. Of course, it was not without flaws. So after all of this, you should have some ideas about what areas are weaker and, could use some improvement. Okay, do let me know if you have any questions when you write us your next set of essays, or even before that, if you have any questions about the feedback in this correction, please let me know. Meanwhile, let's go on to your task 1. This one is really interesting. Okay, fine. So we've got the car companies in the 9 countries. Let's see what you wrote. The bar chart illustrates the number of 3 brands of cars, comma, namely Ford, Audi, and BMW, sold in 9 European countries, and then you name them, good, in the year 2018. Overall, the Hungarians purchased the most, clean this up a little bit, just say the most cars, whereas the least were sold in Belgium. Out of the 3 brands of car, Audi cars were the least sold. Okay, that's fine. I understand why you decided to talk about Audi. It's really not very clear to a lot of people whether Ford or BMW sold more. I do believe that BMW sold more. But I guess to a lot of people it's not clear. A lot of people think Ford sold more. Anyway, I thought your overview was fine, so nice. Both France and the UK had approximately 100,000 sales of Ford cars S. So where are you starting? You're starting with France and the UK. All right, that's interesting. Whereas there was a difference of around 80,000 cars for the sale of Audi, with France purchasing 90,000 cars and the UK with 10,000 cars. Okay, Audi cars bought by the Germans were around 110,000 cars, which was twice the number of cars bought as compared to the Audi sales in Ireland. Okay, so this paragraph was about Audi. Interesting. The most number of BMW cars were purchased by the Germans, which was around 130,000, followed by the Hungarians, the French, and the citizens of Ireland, with around this, and this, respectively. The Italians preferred the BMW cars, which had a sale, that's awkward. The Italians preferred BMWs with sales of around 90,000, which was 5 times more than the sales of Audi and Ford cars. Poland's Ford car sales were 10 times more as compared to the least Ford cars sold, which was in Belgium. Okay. Let's see. I don't know where to start. Okay, you did a lot of nice things. You made a lot of nice comparisons. You did a few things that were very good. Let me tell you what some of those really good things were. I thought it was really good that you included all the countries here in your introduction. That's always a smart thing to do, because if for some reason you don't manage to mention all of the countries in your description, then you still will get above a 4. Okay, basically, if you leave out any of the categories, then it kind of automatically drops you down to a 4 for task achievement. This is something a lot of people don't know. A lot of people are always like, why did I do so poorly? Well, maybe it's, in some cases, it's because people didn't include all the categories. So you did include them, and this was a great way to do it. You just kind of mention them at least once, and then if for some reason you don't mention them again in your description, at least you covered your bases. So that was good. And then I also like that you had this particular overview. I thought you did very well there. Where you ran into some problems for me was in this section here in the detailed part of the description. First of all, this is a stacked bar chart. Why did they present this information of 3 car companies as a stacked bar chart? Well, the reason they do it is because they're trying to show you that they're actually concerned with the total figures for each country. So in other words, they're very concerned with Hungary reaching almost 400,000 cars sold, and then they want to show you how that 400,000 was created. So in other words, what went into that 400,000? Okay, so in other words, how much of that 400,000 was BMW, how much of it was Audi, how much of it was Ford, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's why they've chosen to present this information like this. So what does that mean for you when you go to describe this? Well, one thing that I would do is I would make my first detailed paragraph solely about the totals. So in other words, I would start off with Hungary, saying that it was almost 400,000. Then it was followed by France at just over 300,000. I would say that Belgium sold the least at around 90,000 cars. And the remaining countries, and you don't even have to name them because you've already done that here, all sold between 120 and 270,000 total cars. And then you're done with that paragraph, okay? So then you can do a very, very similar thing with the detailed paragraph. Now here, you're going to have to do a lot of grouping. So as I said before, I would start off with BMW. I would say that throughout the 9 countries, BMW sold approximately 100,000 cars in all countries except for Belgium, where it sold a negligible amount. Okay, and that's a pretty fair statement to make, okay, that it was approximately, because it's either, like 80,000 or 120,000. So on average, you could say it's around 100,000. Then I would do something similar for Ford, except I might get onto a little more detail here. I would say that it sold whatever number this is. It looks like it's around 120,000 in both Hungary and Holland. It sold the least cars in Germany and in Italy. And in the remaining countries, it sold between whatever this number is and whatever that number is. And then I would do something very similar for Audi. So this is how you can do this. It's really about grouping, because if you look at this bar chart carefully, you have 36 pieces of information, because not only do you have 9 countries with the 3 cars, but you also have these totals, and it's really important to talk about those 3 totals, those 9 totals appropriately. So that's how I would do this. I hope that that's helpful. I want you to be careful. I thought a lot of this was repetitive. That's something we didn't get into. Look at this. You had which was twice the number of cars sold, which was 10 times more as compared to. You had a lot of that. And so while it's great to compare, when you have so much of it like this, it really just becomes very repetitive. And so it's kind of hard to focus on what's important and what's not. So I hope that you find this kind of way of looking at this bar chart helpful. And what I said about the totals, this is something also you can do when you have line graphs. A lot of line graphs do this, where they have like a total number and then they have underneath like what went into that total. It's the same kind of philosophy. You really do need to spend some time talking just about the total, and then you can go into detail about what went into that total. Okay, so go ahead and correct these. Let's see more work from you. If you have any feedback, if you have any comments about this particular correction, do please let me know, and I'll be waiting for your next set. Good luck.